This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we encourage you to like and share them on Facebook because it's time for the weekly live and local, highly controversial, not very easily intimidated, the brave and fearless Rudy Howard in the African American scene. Welcome aboard, Rudy.
Welcome back, Cliff. Good to see you up and about.
Good to be up and about for a change without the constant agony of excruciating pain. But, people don't understand that. When you see these guys with chronic pain, they don't complain about it all the time, and you probably don't even know it. But that's not an old grouch that lives down the road from me. He's just in chronic pain, that's all.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Wow. Do we have a lot of stuff going on. I hope you really enjoyed the show last week when I had on the retired warden, Vanessa Adams. I thought it was a great show. She gave you a lot of insight into what it was like to be a warden in a prison. And she also did international warden work, which I found very interesting.
That program, by the way, has been officially archived in our main computer, so that if one of these nights you can't make it in, it'll be a standby, and it'll be a good one to get back on.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the one.
Greg really liked it, and he told me that if she comes to town, that he would like to do a special show with her, and there's a good chance that may happen. So if she does, we'll keep that in mind. Folks, I have to tell you, this has been one hell of a 2020. There is so much stuff going on, and there's so much frustration, and I talk to my friends, and most of them have talked about how it is affecting their mental attitude. And recently, this morning, I saw where the vast majority of the people, their happiness measure is way down. So there's confusion. 72% of all the people think we're going in the wrong direction. I know my Trumpers don't believe that, but they said 72% of Americans feel we're going in the wrong direction. So I don't know. But let's talk a little bit about policing, and I want to talk a little bit about monuments too. But before we get on to policing, well, first off, I'm going to give you a slam dunk easy trivia question to win a free eye exam with Dr. Lynn Irby. What year and what state were the first slaves were bought, and what state were the first slaves bought to in America? What state were the first slaves bought to in America, and in what year? And if you get the answer to that question, you get a free eye exam with Dr. Lynn Irby, and she's got some wonderful choices for glasses too. So if you go there and you need a freshen up pair of glasses, she's got plenty for you to choose from, and she has all kinds of designer models, and it's just a nice shop. Okay, now before we get into this police question, here's some things we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about black on black crime. That is a standard conservative talking point.
Designed to tell you to shut up.
Right.
Without doing so, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about Chicago. That's another one. It's another standard conservative talking point. And not because it only tells part of the story, because most white people die from white on white crime. We never hear that, but that happens to be the fact, because most murders between people occur between people that they know. So you talk about black on black crime. I never hear anybody talk about white on white crime. But
Well, the exception on that is our serial killers. So that because the average statistical serial killer is a white male,
that's
young
true.
white male,
Yes,
mid-20s.
Okay. Now, what I want to know from you, and I'm just dying, I've been dying since last week to get to talk to you about this. What is it about this time that you think is different? As I looked out on the TV screen and I watched the protests as they began to occur, I was marveled at the mixed audience, and I hadn't seen that since the civil rights movement. But what really blew me away was when we started having international marches. And there was marches in France and England, and I was like, wow. So what do you think happened? There was a tendency, I've been doing this show now for 9, almost 10 years, and whenever we've talked about this, I usually get somebody that calls up to me and tells me, well, no, that doesn't exist. That is just, that is liberal hyperbole, that there is police brutality against blacks. But somehow, some way, it penetrated this time, and you got people of all colors, white, black, brown, Asian, all out there marching. And you can love President Trump all you want. He has done the lousy, incredibly crappy job of trying to bring the country together at this time. He just can't do it. He lacks the wherewithal inside of himself to be able to talk to people in an intelligent manner and try to bring people together at this time of crisis. Let me tell you some of the police reforms that they're talking about. First of all, defund the police. I am not in favor of doing away with police departments. Number one, that's not what defund the police means. I wish they had found a different code word for that, because the words itself are quite offensive, because I don't think anybody wants to be without a police department.
And wouldn't that affect the jobs and careers of black police officers?
Of course it would, yes. What that means basically is the resources that have been allocated to police departments to do things that should be done by other social services. Like if there's a domestic situation, they send the police. Maybe they should send a social worker. You know, I think they have a problem with a homeless person. Rather than sending the police, maybe they should send a community person that can go out there and talk to the homeless person and try to come up with a resolution. But what you have to deal with is there are situations with people that require actions that don't necessarily involve the police. And we got Steve on line 1.
Hey, Rudy.
Yes, Steve.
I'll make it short and quick.
Yes, Steve.
Defense.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Okay, go ahead.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Instead of defunding the police, let's restructure them.
Well, that's what they mean with that.
Well, I mean it this way, because I used to be a cop. I would, every 3 years, psychologically test every patrolman, every cop, and do it anonymously. You know, the psychiatrist does not have to know he's a cop. You can do a blind interview. I've had that done. The other thing is when you're hiring, really check out the sensitivity of this guy's background or woman's background. You know, take some time. You don't go jump into a jet dragster and never driven one before. You at least look at the motor and the parachute.
There you
know
go.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
The third thing you got to do is make it known to the police that when I grew up and when I was a deputy, we had what was called community policing. I was the first college graduate hired in Palm Beach County to upgrade their force. But we were there to de-escalate the violence and increase the civility between the police and the citizens because they're our best eyes and ears. We've gotten away from that. Now we're a paramilitary force.
Which is sad.
It can't survive.
No, it
You
can't.
can't survive doing it.
Well, and that's what Camden did. And if you look at the Camden statistics, they reduced crime dramatically, like almost 40% reduction in crime. And basically what they did is they took some of the cars away and they put the people on feet, police on feet, and made them walk the community and make friends with the neighbors. And
When I was young, that's what they did in my city.
yeah.
We had a Hubert Furry. I remember the guy. You know, if he caught you getting in trouble, he wouldn't take you to jail. He'd take you home to your parents. And that was worse than going to jail, believe me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Hubert Furry was a community policeman. And if somebody did something, we would go to him and say, Officer Fury, so-and-so did that. We didn't do it. And, you know, he appreciated it. They solved the crime, they got rid of the problem, and everybody got along.
Yeah.
When we turned paramilitary, now it's us against them. That's got to go.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I'll let somebody else talk.
I think under Obama, he had that 21st Century Police Conference.
Yes.
And out of that came some recommendations which he tried to implement, along with
Trump
the fact
killed
that,
them all.
yes, Trump just put them all in the trash can.
No, he killed every one of his reforms for police.
Yes, he did.
You know, I want a question for your listeners. You cannot indict a sitting president. There is nothing in the Constitution, I have one right here, I've been reading it over and over, that says that we can't have him examined psychologically to see if he's fit mentally to be president. I'm serious. They ought to require that the guy have a psychological profile.
What
would he say? No, I'm not.
Yeah, I think there's some issues. There are some issues there, but listen.
I dare somebody to find one.
No, I'm saying
really
there's
do.
some. I think there are some mental acuity issues with respects to.
Yeah, he's a nut job.
You know,
There's
really.
no question. The problem is he's a dangerous nut job whose time's running out. I mean, he's going to get desperate pretty soon.
Yes, he is. He's going to be desperate because
You know, he's already turned the military on the civilians, and we got a nut job in North Korea. A woman now is going to take over from the little fat guy,
yeah,
and she's a real hawk.
yeah.
So I don't want him in there with her in there. I want common sense in there with her in there.
Well, all right, sir. Well, thank you very much
you.
for calling and being a good listener as always. And
You're interested.
thank you. And we got Winnie on line too. Yes, Winnie.
How you doing, Rudy and Cleo?
Yeah.
You good? That about I hear myself. I'm hearing a recall.
You what?
Rudy.
Yes.
I'm hearing the echo.
Oh, I don't know what that is. Cliff,
An
she says-
echo?
You know, I can hear myself. I can hear myself talking.
Yeah, you will. Just ignore that.
Anyway, that Mr. Brooks in Atlanta,
Yeah.
but anyway, they gonna charge them two officers. One of them had, and they said the man would die. When he would die, the one of them had kicked them.
Yes.
Stand up on them or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, they charged them the two. I really, it's running me crazy. I can't. I'm hearing myself as I'm talking. They
Happens
can't
to me
hear
every
that.
happens to me every day.
Well, Winnie.
Uh,
And Winnie, thank you for calling.
I hear echo. I hear myself talking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
call back another time then.
All right.
But she's right. They indicted the officer that shot Brooks today, and there were people who felt that the shooting was in order. I don't know how you could say the shooting is in order when he's running away. Should he have run away? No. But did he have a weapon? No.
Not that could be considered a weapon. It was a taser that had been spent. In other words, once you fired it twice, it wouldn't do anything until it recharges. So
Exactly.
and they knew it. They knew that it had been spent.
Right. So, but here's the thing. You got his car. You think he's inebriated. Where is he going to go? You know where he lives. You got his car, and he's running away. Where's he gonna go? How far is he gonna go? He's inebriated. If you accept the fact that he was inebriated, he blew a .8, which is not like horrible, but that was just above the limit. I think it's .6. Yeah, it's not like 1.5 or anything. But so where's he gonna go? You could have got in your cop car, followed him, and he's gonna stop because he's gonna run out of gas.
Or they could have stopped at the donut shop, had a cup of coffee, and then went to his house.
Yes, they could have. Yes, they didn't have to shoot him. There was no reason to shoot him. He wasn't committing a crime against anybody, and he was asleep in his car. And I'm going to tell you, I will bet you 90% of the people listening to this show at one time or another, in their youth maybe, had a little too much to drink and were out. You probably wouldn't do it now because with age comes wisdom, but I would think that most of the people listening have done that. He was 27 years old. Come on. There was absolutely no reason to shoot that man. Just was no reason whatsoever. He was running away. And you had his car. And you had his address. So what was the point? That's just pure insanity. And we got Chuck on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hey, Rudy.
Yes,
he
sir.
Blew a 1.07. It wasn't a .08. He was on his way to the county jail for DUI. When
Well,
they went to put the handcuffs on him,
I saw
put
it.
two cops to the ground.
No,
He
they wrestled each.
stole a taser, which is a non-lethal, lethal weapon. He could have incapacitated one of those cops, taken their weapon, and shot him.
Chuck. Did you hear what Cliff said? The weapon had already been discharged. They got in a
No,
tussle.
it wasn't.
Yeah, yes, it had been, and
He aimed it.
they got in a tussle, and they got to the ground because they were trying to put the handcuffs on him. Okay, and he kind of got the better of them, and that just pissed.
Well, he did get the better of him.
And he just pissed off. But he didn't attack them. He ran away. He ran away, Chuck. Chuck, he ran away.
Yes, he did. With a taser that he hadn't fired. He turned and he aimed it at the cop behind him and fired it at him.
And nothing happened. So, Chuck, what are you suggesting that he should have been shot and killed? Just answer that. Wait. We're not going to dance. Just say yes or no.
There's a time there. I'm not going to let you limit me. At the time of the incident, yeah, what happened, happened. 20/20 hindsight from your view, it's a totally different thing. It's nice to have.
Nope. It's not. It's not complicated.
You're a former law enforcement officer, aren't you?
Who, me?
He's a retired. He's a retired military guy.
Okay.
No, but listen, it's not complicated, Chuck. You can say yes or no. Did he deserve to be shot? Yes or no?
What he did, yes.
Oh, so he deserved to die.
Die for what? What are you insinuating?
Well,
He should die. He should have died because he was drunk, or he should have died because he fired a taser at the cop. Which one are you going to answer to?
take your pick. He fired a taser that had been spent.
Yep.
Chuck, here's the thing. It's very simple. This is not complicated at all. And I know this because I got friends who are retired police officers. You got the guy's license. You know where he lives. You got his car, and he's running. Where's he going to go?
He assaulted two police officers.
They tried
Are you going to allow that to happen?
Is there a death penalty
everybody
for
that
that?
assaults a police officer?
He did not. He did not assault the police officer.
Yes,
They were attempting to handcuff him. Okay, wait.
assaulted them.
If he resisted being handcuffed, that's an assault.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
He took two police officers to the ground. He hit them. Did you watch the video?
I did.
I did.
I did.
Do you believe what the family's attorney said? That they should have given him a ride home?
Well, here's what I think. I would tell you that, and I know a lot of police officers. Most police officers in that situation, with him not driving the car and being in a parking lot and had pulled into a parking space, they would have let him be. He was not harming anybody. He did not represent a danger to the public. He was intoxicated. That's it.
Severely. He was like 4 times the level.
No.
He blew a 1.07.
I didn't see 1.07. I saw 0.8.
It showed on the police body cam.
Well,
It showed it 1.07.
okay, 1.07.
Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? You're going to
Death
allow
penalty.
So
you're going to allow a drunk to run around with a taser?
he did not have a taser at the time that they shot. I mean,
Shot him.
that when they addressed him in his car, he didn't have a taser then.
No, you know what?
They
He took it
engaged
from
him.
the
They
cop.
engaged him. They engaged him in a conversation. They were having a cordial conversation. The
20,
first
30
cop.
minutes
The
worth.
first cop. Now I'm going to tell you now. You're going to hear this, because I heard it that when they were doing the tape, the first cop was going to let him go, and just tell him to because he said, "My sister is down the street. I will walk to my sister's house." So
Okay.
you don't let him go. You try to handcuff him, and because he's strong as hell and he gets away from you, you decide to shoot him.
All right. So what we do, everybody that blows DUI, they say somebody lives down the street, we let them walk their ass on down the street.
No, we don't let everybody. But if you have a person who is in a parking lot, cars parked, and they're not driving, and they're in a non-threatening mode, what are you going to? Do they deserve to die for that?
Sir, pay attention to what happened. He was asleep in the drive-through window.
I got it. I got it.
Him up twice till he pulled into a parking spot.
I got it.
The engine was running.
I got it.
By law says he is guilty of DUI. Your cop friends will tell you that.
I got it.
All right, I tell you what, Rudy. We're going to go around and round in circles. You're going to have other callers, so let them come on.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Talk with you.
All right.
I think it is. It's just a really simple. I can tell you for sure.
That's the lynch mob mentality manifested before our very ears, right there.
Yes.
Because it's not. The simple question was, did he deserve to die because of that? Was deadly force really required at that point for that? And well, why don't? Are you suggesting they should have lynched him instead? Right? You gotta ask the questions, folks. And if you're gonna just blindly defend this, you're part of the problem.
You're absolutely part of the problem because, listen, I am not defending him for being drunk. And if they had stopped him...
It's not a death penalty crime. No.
Right, exactly. If they had stopped him on the street and he was driving, yes, they should handcuff him and take his behind to jail.
But in a death penalty case, there's a trial.
Exactly. Yes, but to kill him... He was inebriated. And this is the point. I'm going to make this point 1,000 times. I don't care what Chuck said. You had his car. You know where he lived. You think he's intoxicated, and he's running. Where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? Technically, you could have stood by his car. You already knew that he blew the meter. So you got the evidence. So if you stood by his car until he came back, you could still take him to jail because you got the evidence right there. Why go through that? There was no reason to go through that. Was just none. And then you kill him? No, but you kill him because your ego was injured. You killed him because your ego was injured because there was two of you and one of him, and he must have been strong as hell, so he was able to get away from the two of you and run. And so now you're pissed because he got away from you. Well, the first cop in the first place didn't want to go that far. It's the second cop that shows up on the scene that wants to make a big hubbub about it. And I don't care. Anybody can call up here and say he needs to die, and I'll fight with you till the end of time. You got his car. You know where he lives. He can't go nowhere, and he's on foot. What requires deadly force about that? You already have the evidence that he's blown past the limit. Okay, so tell me, why does that deserve the death penalty?
You want me to take a wild guess? These poor little donut-eating white police officers are very intimidated by these rather large and very healthy and strong black men. It scares the heck out of these guys.
Yeah.
And they're ready at all times, maybe too ready. Psychological evaluation once a year. that kind of thing. Not just physical fitness, but mental fitness.
Well,
Because
that's what's-
good cops that shut up when their bad cops do things, those aren't good cops either. Those are bad cops too.
Well, that's what Steve was saying before. It's as much the mental fitness as it is the physical fitness. So
Yeah.
I bet you, was that Chuck again?
No, it was just somebody that just wanted to just slam the phone down in my ear like it mattered.
Yeah,
It didn't get
okay,
on the
yeah,
air.
Right, yeah, all right. But listen, okay, so I'll be glad to discuss that with anybody else you want. So
Oh, yeah.
I would guess, according to what Chuck was saying, I guess George Floyd deserved to die for passing potentially a fraudulent $20 bill. Yeah, so I guess he deserved to die for that. I guess Breonna Taylor deserved to die in her apartment when they were looking for a drug guy, and they banged the door in. They break into her apartment, and the guy they're looking for has already been apprehended. I guess she deserved to die too. Come on, give me a break. So that stuff that it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I think Winnie's going to try again.
Okay. Yes, Winnie.
Yeah, okay. I get. Anyway, what about these two in California? They found two black guys hung by a tree. What you think about that?
Well, Winnie, I don't know, but it's under investigation. But I would have to say, on the surface, it looks suspicious. That's what I would say. But I don't like to make statements that can't be corroborated. So.
Wow, that's scary.
So that's what I think about that, Winnie.
Oh, okay, all right. Take care. Bye bye.
Are you there? Well, I got another caller.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have Phil, I think, now.
Yes, Phil. Yes, Phil.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah. Good. How about yourself?
Okay. Question I wanted to ask you was about that taser. Did I not hear something of the effect that thing had already been
Yes.
like fired or used?
Been spent
So
twice.
what he grabbed wouldn't have worked worth a you-know-what anyway?
Yes, that's correct.
In fact, it didn't when he fired it. You
Wow.
could see he'd fired
Well,
it,
the
but
guy knew it,
the officer didn't go down.
and he knew his life wasn't really that threatened. And then the guy turns around, runs, and he shoots him twice in the back. In the old Western days, you know what that meant, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But Phil, you understand the point that I'm making, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they got the car, they got the license, they know where the guy lives. He's intoxicated, so how far is he really going to run before he
Exactly.
falls down or passes out?
Exactly. Yeah. How far is he gonna run?
I'm no lawman, but that's pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah, it is. It's really not complicated unless you just want to feel that it's okay to shoot a black guy. That just doesn't make any sense. I would object you doing that to a white guy. That doesn't make any sense either.
Exactly. The same thing that happened to George Floyd.
Yes.
Nobody deserved what he got either. Nobody.
Yep. I agree.
All right. I'm going to go, Rudy.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The drummer of that church in West Palm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is nothing new going on. None of this is new. It's all the same problem. It's escalated and boiling over, and nobody seems to see it, understand it, or be able to prevent it.
Yeah. Well, at least the drummer in West Palm Beach, that guy got nailed.
Yeah.
Listen, some of these things are like just so ridiculous. The guy's on the side of the road, 3 o'clock in the morning, and a guy comes up to him in plain clothes. Now, who the hell is he? What's he to think? I'm going to be nervous as the devil. Somebody approaching me. I'm broke down on the side of the road, 3 o'clock in the morning, and a guy with no markings, plain clothes, is getting ready to come up on me. I am not going to be I'm going to be in a very defensive mode.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. It's like, but, we have to listen. I have had good experiences with police officers. I have had bad experiences with police officers. And I had a good experience. I will share a good experience I had with a police officer. I was living in Long Island. I got a call from my mother at like 1 o'clock in the morning that my father had a stroke. And he was in the hospital, and they didn't know if he was going to make it. I jumped in my car. I took off down the Mass Pike, and I was going about 85 miles an hour trying to get there. Cop pulled me over. He said, "You were speeding." I said, "Yes, sir. And after you give me this ticket, I'm going to speed again because my father's in the hospital dying." Cop looked at me, went back to his car, made a phone call, and he said, "Okay, you're free to go. Be careful. I know you're going to be in a hurry, but be careful."
And that happened in Massachusetts?
No, that was in New Jersey.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. On the New Jersey Turnpike.
Wow.
Now that was a good experience. Now
Yeah.
he had I was expecting to get big time ticket. Well, I didn't care. I was going to just pay it because my father was dying. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought he was dying, and so did my mother. So, but he just said, he just made a phone call. I guess he wanted to see whether or not I was telling the truth. He must have called the hospital or something, and then he came back and said, "Okay, go."
But every once in a while, you'll find one that'll call in. And he'll say, "Look, this guy was speeding, but his dad's dying in a hospital. He needs to get there. Can we give him an escort?"
Yeah.
Did he give you an escort?
No, just let me. He let me. Well, it was like 1:30 in the morning or something like that.
Oh yeah.
He let me go.
Wow.
That was a good experience. But
Yeah.
I've had some bad ones too now. Let me tell you. But
You don't need any of them to be like some of these more recent ones have.
No.
Nobody needs that. And
No.
I think it's kind of, you got people out there that are saying all life matters, but isn't it quite hypocritical to say that on one hand, and on the other have to be told that Black lives matter? Because
Well,
if all lives matter, Black lives should matter too anyway.
Right. The problem is, and I don't think that people truly understand the message that they're communicating. They're basically communicating the message that only I get to decide when things change. You shut up, go sit in the corner, and when I tell you it's okay, then I'll change things.
Yeah.
Surprise. This is 2020. That ain't happening.
That's right.
That just ain't gonna happen.
The antebellum world has changed.
Yeah, it's not happening. And the world has told you, not just black people, the world has told you that's not happening because they're protesting as well. Now, as a kid growing up, I was often told these things by my father. We all knew those things happened, but there was no video. Now there's video.
Everywhere.
You see video. And first of all, the cop has to be crazy. If I was a cop, given the current environment, and he shoots a man running away, you got to be out of your mind. What would make you think that you're going to get away with that in this kind of environment? Maybe 10 years ago you'd have got away with it, but you got
maybe 10 years ago, definitely 30 years ago.
Definitely 30 years ago. You got people out in the street protesting about excessive policing, and you're in a parking lot, and people are just videoing you in the car, and they got a video up on the building, and you shoot the guy in the back. Just pure. I'm sorry. That's just dumb as you know what. That's just dumb. You should know better. Especially in this current climate, you would think you'd know better than to do that. And there's people out there like Chuck that's going to defend it and say, well, they were upholding the law. Yeah, you can uphold the law. I'm not saying that they should allow people to break the law, but I'm going to repeat the same thing again. And I'm going to say it until y'all get it. They already had the breathalyzer information, so he was busted. Okay? They had that. He couldn't wipe that out. So you had the evidence, you had his car, and he was on his foot. Where's he going? He can't go nowhere. He can't go anywhere. So there was no reason at all for deadly force in that situation, except your ego got hurt. That's the reason for deadly force. Your ego was bruised. And we got Brian. Yes, Brian.
Yeah, hey, how you doing, Rudy?
Okay.
I was out of the for a few minutes, just got back in. Still talking about the police incidents?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wanted to say that I have love and respect for our honorable law enforcement officers, and unfortunately, the officers in these forces are undertrained for different reasons, but they really do need to get some better training, not only in de-escalation techniques, but also just non-lethal methods of getting a suspect into custody, using the minimum amount of force, and just better training all around. And hopefully, these recent events, and not just the recent ones, but also the ones in the past that have led up to all of this. Hopefully, all of this will benefit everyone, the law enforcement officers and everybody else in society, as far as bringing about better conditions. So hopefully things will improve.
I think, you know what? I have as much hope now, Brian, as I've had in a long time, because it's not just black folks now. It is all folks recognize that there are some issues that need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find really tragic, when they killed Tamir Rice, that 12-year-old in Ohio, with a toy gun, if you saw the tape, the cop shot him in less than 2 minutes. Now, I have to say, I haven't never been a police officer, but if I saw a little kid, I think the first thing I would have said is, put that gun down, or something along that effect, with the idea that the kid may have surrendered because he's a kid. But instead they shot him.
Yes, and I think part of that is now, we don't know what's in people's hearts, and it's easy to say, this person's a racist and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, only God really knows.
True.
However, you can, I believe, make judgments based on a person's actions and their words and their attitudes as far as what you can discern. Now, a big part of that and a lot of other incidents like that is fear.
Yeah.
And there's too much fear that these officers have to where, and we always, roll our eyes and say, when they say, he was in fear for his life. But, honestly, I think that really is the case with far too many of these. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have a reasonable amount of fear, because it's potentially a dangerous situation. But like you were saying, this is a kid. I'm not saying that teenagers can't do things. Obviously they can, but I mean, if fear rules the day, everything goes downhill from there.
I agree. I honest to God, I looked at that tape at least 10 times, and I asked myself, what would I have done? And I think I would have stood behind my car in a safe position and said to him, "Put that gun down. What are you doing with that gun?"
Yep.
I was stood behind the car so that I could have been safe, but I would have called out to the kid. It's not like I would have to deal with a grown man. And the kid, the chances, I would think the chances are very high because he is a young kid. He would have complied.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless, I'm not going to say unless he's a hardened criminal, but the average teenager, regardless of the color of their skin or ethnicity, they police roll up, and you can tell, hey, these guys aren't playing around. These are cops.
Exactly.
It's time to get serious. So they think I have a gun. Let me go ahead and put this down.
Yep.
Let me show 'em my hands. But that's you and I saying, what we would do, and we weren't there and everything. But I mean, they just need, at the end of the day, they just need better training, and hopefully the fear will subside and decrease in these officers. Unfortunately, racism, that's a sin. That is a manifestation of the sinful and fallen world that we live in. And unfortunately, until Jesus comes back and sets everything right, racism as well as all the other sins are going to be around. And I hate to say it, but I honestly believe that's true. Now we can educate people and pray, and hopefully God will change people's hearts. If you are racist or you hate somebody else because of the color of their skin, we pray that God will change these people's hearts. But outside of that, unfortunately, it's gonna be around. And I'm a conservative, and I'm really disturbed by fellow conservatives that I'm hearing downplaying the issue of institutional or systemic racism. I can't see how people can say that it doesn't exist, because if you have somebody that is racist, you go to whatever Fortune 500 company or whatever organization, and you call a meeting, and you say, anyone in here who's a racist, raise your hand. Honestly, does anyone think that somebody's going to raise their hand and
You
say,
just indicated when they open their
racist,
mouth.
and I hate all you N-words and all this other stuff? Nobody's going to say anything.
Of course not.
You can't tell me that the attitude that was prevalent among whites and others during the Jim Crow era, and we can take it back even further to slavery, but during the Jim Crow era, you can't tell me that those attitudes don't exist anymore. It is impossible to say for sure. It's ridiculous to think that racists are not in positions of power in these organizations. And look at, you and I, Rudy, we walk into a place and we go to an interview, and the person that's interviewing us, the CEO or whoever, the hiring manager, the HR manager, if they're racist, I mean, they're gonna. Do you honestly think they're gonna hire us, or do anything to benefit us as black men? It's frustrating to me when people downplay or doubt. Systemic racism exists, and just because you can't point to specific examples, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And part of that is nobody's gonna up and say, yeah, I'm a racist. I'm an HR manager for such and such company, and if I see your paperwork come before me, or if I'm interviewing you and you ain't the color of skin that I like, you might as well, you wasting your time. I'm gonna go through the motions and everything, but once the interview is over, next. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Brian, let me tell you, I really appreciate you saying this as a conservative, because oftentimes conservatives just refuse to admit anything of the sorts. And I have a young African-American friend of mine who's living in Arizona now, who I've known since he was a little kid, and he's a conservative. And he's come out and challenged some of the positions of his conservatives, and he's just been brutalized, and he's had to unfriend some people. And he had to tell him how he felt about the situation.
It's shameful. It's shameful how we treat each other, and it's the animosity that we have towards each other. And I've been shown animosity by
you got it from both sides.
Yeah, I got it from both sides. So, I don't gobble up everything on the conservative plate without even looking at it. That's not me at all. I have beliefs and values and attitudes and thoughts that are in line with, with liberals. We can say that. But the majority of my beliefs line up with conservatives. I don't even want to call myself a Republican because, hey, look, nobody's perfect.
Here's a book I think you would really enjoy. What Color is a Conservative by J.C. Watts.
Okay.
I think you would really enjoy that book. He brings forth a thought process about how, and I've said this many times here, and you've proved it already, that the Republican Party has an opportunity to win more African Americans to their party if they wouldn't do the stupid stuff, because basically African American people are pretty conservative.
Yes, that is very true. And that's something that I marvel at a lot. In fact, my wife is she's African American, but she leans more to the Democrat side, and but we have conversations in the house and stuff, and I joke with her. I'm like, babe, you sounded kind of conservative there, because she has conservative values, and I'm originally from the islands, and my family's originally from the islands, and I tell you what, it's hard to get more conservative. You go down to the islands, and it's very conservative, but due to certain factors, people decide the way they decide, and it is what it is. But I just wanted to call and just
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for calling.
All right, and I'm gonna ask a question I've asked before. You probably don't remember, but you probably will once I ask it. Have you made amends with your friend yet?
Actually, he called tonight, and I didn't make it. I didn't make it better because we fought about Brooks. So, no, we haven't mended the fence. But I don't know if he noticed it, but I unfriended him recently. So we'll see. Yes. So I took the block off. So we'll see if he responds to that. But thank you, Brian.
All right, you're welcome, sir. Have a good night.
Okay, and folks, I'd like to thank you so much for listening to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American.
And I'll be here to see to it that the callers respect the host of this show, by golly. Archives of this show are on YouTube, as well as the racists that call in and complain. They're on the show, too. Watch YouTube, WPSLTV.com. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, 7 o'clock.